I never imagined the quiet could betray me. Night runs were my ritual. Ever since work stress began feeling like sandbags on my chest, I'd put in headphones, step outside, and let the city's sleeping pulse sync with mine. Portland has this strange way of softening everything after dark. Even the neon seems apologetic. There's space to think, or stop thinking altogether, if that's what you need. That night, Jessica said she'd be late at the office. "Don't wait up," she added, barely glancing away from her phone. She brushed a hand across my shoulder in the kind of absent-minded affection that feels more like a rehearsed gesture than love. I kissed her temple. It felt like kissing a mannequin. She left. I tied my shoes. Nothing special. Nothing alarming. Trust is a funny thing. You don't notice when it's rotting. I started my run slow. Rain had stopped a little over an hour earlier, leaving the pavement slick and shining. The air had that metallic bite that tastes like winter trying to crawl in early. I let my feet carry me nowhere in particular. My favorite route past Maple Drive, quiet and lined with street lamps leaning in like nosy spectators. Even the breeze felt like it was whispering something. 2 blocks from home, I saw a car parked near the small park's locked gate. The type of place teens smoke and think they're mysterious. A black Honda Civic. Ours. Dent still visible on the passenger door. The one Jessica said she didn't mind because things happen. My feet slowed. My pulse didn't. The engine wasn't running, but the windows were fogged, completely, like someone erased the inside from the world. The car gave a tiny rock, so slight that if it weren't the only thing moving in the entire street, I might have missed it. My mind tried bargaining. Maybe she pulled over to take a call? Maybe she was sick? Maybe. There's a second inside realization where you feel your entire nervous system rearrange itself. Where denial tries to sprint one way while truth chains your ankles. I should have turned away. I should have lied to myself just a little longer. Instead, I walked to the driver's side. I didn't slam the door open. I didn't yell. I just pulled the handle. It clicked softly, the kind of sound that should belong to a bathroom cabinet, not a marriage ending. Inside, skin, tangled bodies, frantic breathing snapping like twigs. Jessica's bare shoulder glistened under the streetlight. A sound caught in her throat, a mix between guilt and shock. Tyler, my best friend, lifted his face toward me. His expression twisted into something between fear and anger, as if I were the one trespassing on him. "Ryan," Jessica croaked, scrambling, arms wrapping around her chest as though modesty mattered anymore. Tyler froze. His pupils blew wide like he was facing headlights, not a friend. His belt hung loose around his waist. His skin flushed. His lips red from kissing a life that wasn't his to touch. There are moments that split your life into before and after. This one nearly split me in half. "It's not," he started, and I walked away before he could tell the world's oldest, dumbest lie. I didn't run fast. I didn't scream. The silence did all the screaming for me. Each step felt like wading through concrete. My chest felt too small for my ribs. Sounds blurred into a vacuum. Breathing hurt. Every memory of Tyler cracked like ice under my feet, college nights drinking cheap beer, holding each other up at our first real jobs, him hugging me after Jessica said yes to my proposal. He was the man I stood beside at his wedding. I toasted him. I believed him to be good. Belief is a fool's investment. Home was lit only by the fridge's glow when I opened it and grabbed water I would never drink. I leaned against the counter until my legs trembled, then slid onto the kitchen tile where I could pretend the cold was the reason I shook. My wedding ring felt heavier than bone. What do you do in that moment? Throw something? Cry? Call your parents? I stared at the wall. I stared at my hands. They didn't look like mine anymore. My phone buzzed and I hoped, stupidly, for Jessica's apology, or even her laughter pretending it was all a misunderstanding. Instead, unknown number. "Ryan? It's Maya. I think we should talk. Please." Maya. Tyler's wife. 8 months pregnant with their first child. A woman who had spent the last year knitting tiny socks and painting nurseries and believing in stability. She deserved better. God, she deserved better than both of us had gotten. My hands trembled as I typed. "Where?" She replied instantly. "The diner on 12th. Now?" The diner's neon sign flickered when I arrived, splashing red light onto puddles like spilled wine. Maya sat in a back booth, back straight but fragile looking, one hand protective over her belly, the other wrapped tightly around a mug she didn't drink from. She looked up. We didn't hug. We didn't speak for a moment. We just saw the same grief staring back. "How long have you known?" I asked. She exhaled a tired laugh. "Tonight. And at least, a few months." Her voice shook only once. Then she slid her phone toward me. Screenshots. Messages. Photos. Evidence of a world that had kept turning behind our backs, grinding us into dust under its wheels. Every message between them felt like a personal obituary, mine and hers. Maya wiped her eyes with the sleeve of a sweatshirt that looked too big on her small frame. I kept trying to convince myself it was just stress. Hormones. Maybe flirting gone too far. She sniffed. Pregnancy makes you feel crazy. Turns out the crazy part was trusting him. I nodded, because if I spoke, I might break. We need a plan, she whispered. Not revenge. Not rage. A plan. That word lit something inside me, a tiny pilot flame in a house that had grown cold. I'll help you, I said. We don't yell. We don't warn them. We don't give them a dramatic scene to use against us. Her brows furrowed. Listening. We become meticulous. We collect what we need. We dismantle them quietly. Quietly, she echoed, a soft agreement. Her hand tightened over her belly. For him. I nodded. For her baby. For my sanity. For truth. When we left the diner, we weren't strangers anymore. We were survivors holding onto the same wreckage, determined to build something from it instead of drowning beneath it. Maya and I didn't say goodbye outside the diner. We just stood there under the flickering neon like two people who'd been pushed into the same deep water and were still learning how to swim. She pressed her key fob and her car chirped like everything was normal. It felt offensive that anything could behave normally. Thank you for coming, she said. There wasn't a good reply. Call me if you need anything, I managed. She gave a small nod, then slid into the driver's seat with the careful movements of someone who had to protect a life even while her own was cracking open. Then she left. And I stood there, staring at my reflection in the diner window, a man newly aware that he was alone. When I got home, Jessica returned an hour later. I heard her footsteps before the lock turned. Soft steps. Hesitant. Like she was trying not to disturb a house already ruined. She walked into the living room. There was makeup smudged under her right eye. Her hair was still damp at the ends. She smelled like someone else's cologne. Ryan, she whispered. Her voice was even softer than when I saw her in the car. A small part of me, a weak part, wanted her to lie convincingly enough that we could rewind. But Jessica had never been good at lying, that was Tyler's talent. I can explain. Don't, I said. My tone surprised us both. It didn't crack. It didn't shake. It was steady. Neutral. Like a verdict. She sank into a chair, curling her arms around herself. I never wanted to hurt you, she began. The script of the guilty. I stared at the wall behind her. The photo hung there of us grinning stupidly at Cannon Beach a year after we married. Sand stuck to her hair. My arm around her waist. We looked like two people who trusted a future into existence simply by believing in it. What do you want from me? I asked. I want to fix this, she said. I want to come home. You are home, Jessica. She swallowed. I mean, us. There's a moment in grief where anger is tempting, a big loud emotion that makes you feel like you still have power. But numbness is the truth beneath all that. And I was numb down to bone. We're not talking about us tonight, I said. Go to bed. She hesitated. I didn't offer her comfort. Confusion painted across her face, perhaps she expected screaming or tears. Silent consequences are harder to bargain with. She stood, lingered like she might touch me, then walked to the guest room without a word. I sat awake on the couch until dawn. The next day, Maya and I met again, this time with purpose. At a cafe near OHSU where she had a prenatal checkup. She ordered peppermint tea. I ordered coffee and didn't taste it. We need physical proof, she said, businesslike, the way people talk when emotion has burned away enough to show the steel underneath. Photos, timestamps, texts, anything. I nodded. We set boundaries too. You're close to delivery. Stress matters. A tiny laugh escaped her. Stress started months ago. I'm just finally acknowledging it. Her hand splayed protectively across her stomach. I realized then the stakes were so much higher for her. She wasn't only fighting for herself. She was preparing for war while carrying a soldier. Do you think they'll keep seeing each other openly now that they know we know? I asked. No, she said. They'll hide. They'll try to be smarter. We'll be smarter than that. She looked at me across the table, tired but determined. You're handling this better than I expected. The truth? I wasn't handling a thing. I was floating above it all. Watching my life from a weird, clinical distance where pain hadn't fully landed yet. I didn't know whether to fear the moment it finally did. After the appointment, I drove her home. Tyler's truck wasn't there. Of course it wasn't. Maya invited me inside, not out of politeness, but necessity. She showed me the baby's nursery. Walls painted a soft green. A crib built with love. A mobile of clouds and tiny stars. Hope lives in rooms like that. It felt violent that betrayal existed anywhere near it. She caught me staring at a framed ultrasound on the dresser. I wanted him to have a father who showed up, she said quietly. You tried, I replied. Her eyes shimmered, but the tears didn't fall. She'd become too practiced at holding them hostage. Do you think they love each other? She asked. The question hit like a bruise I didn't know I had. No, I said. They just like who they get to be when they're lying. Maya took a trembling breath. I want proof of everything. Enough so Tyler can't twist this and make me look irrational. Enough so my son never has to wonder if I fought for him. Her voice wavered at that last part. That word, son. It made everything so real. I felt protective anger bloom inside me, quiet, strategic, lethal if necessary. You will get full custody, I said. Tyler doesn't get to dip in and out of fatherhood like a hobby. And Jessica? Maya asked. Jessica. The name tasted sour. She will know what loss feels like, I answered. Not because I want to hurt her, but because that's the path she chose. She nodded, slow, thoughtful. We'll do this right, she whispered. No screaming. No violence. Just the truth. The truth is loud enough, I replied. That evening, Jessica attempted normal. She made pasta. Set 2 plates. Asked how my day was. I answered with one syllable or none. Silence is a scalpel when wielded correctly. When she reached across the table and brushed my hand, I flinched, not angry, just unable to pretend skin didn't remember. She pulled away. I'm sorry, she whispered. I swear it meant nothing. It meant something to me, I said, eyes still fixed on my plate. Jessica cried, not loud, just a leaking faucet of remorse. It didn't move me. Not yet. I wished it did. I wished I could feel anything that made sense. I slept on the couch again. She didn't knock this time. In the dark, my heart finally started to break. Not loudly. Just a slow, steady cracking like the thawing of a frozen lake. I promised myself 2 things. I would not become cruelty. I would not allow betrayal to become their victory. We would move deliberately. We would fight quietly. We would collect every shard of truth they thought they buried. And when the moment came to put those shards together, they would be the ones bleeding. It's strange how quickly you can become a stranger inside your own home. Our house felt like a museum of a life that no longer existed. Every picture frame a curated lie. The bed that had once been a place of warmth now looked like a crime scene with neatly tucked sheets. Even the air felt borrowed. Jessica tried everything, breakfast, apologies, soft touches, familiar jokes, but I'd built a wall of silence that she couldn't scale. Not because I hated her. Because I didn't trust myself not to collapse if I let her voice inside again. Meanwhile, Maya and I worked. Our alliance moved quietly, under the radar of 2 people too wrapped up in their own impulse to realize their lies were constructing a cage. We documented everything. GPS history. Receipts for work dinners. Photos from parking lots. Recorded late-night calls they thought disappeared into the dark. At the exact times Jessica lied about overtime. Maya bought a simple tracking device and looped it discreetly onto Tyler's keychain when he visited their apartment one evening. He didn't notice. People like him rarely notice details that matter to anyone but themselves. The map on Maya's phone didn't lie. Every night, 2 blips met in a new location like a scavenger hunt of betrayal, sometimes hotels, sometimes the same park, sometimes Jessica's office parking lot after hours. Every pin was a confession. Maya created a folder on her laptop. Grant v. Grant, custody. It looked so formal, clinical. It chilled me that our entire lives had been boiled into legal ammunition. We met regularly, sometimes at the diner, sometimes in parks, sometimes in my car, never anywhere close to their routine. Each meeting was a mix of strategy and support. We would sit together, 2 survivors reverse engineering the collapse of our marriages. I started looking forward to those meetings. Not because revenge tasted sweet yet, but because Maya made the world feel less like a minefield. She understood grief without needing it explained. Heartbreak has a universal language. The day she went into labor, I was there. Not Tyler. Not the man who helped make that child. Me. It happened 3 weeks early. I was on my run when Maya called, her voice thin and strained. Ryan, please. I need help. I sprinted faster than my lungs wanted, got her into my car, and rushed her to OHSU. She squeezed my hand through contractions like she was holding on to the only steady thing in her life. Tyler didn't answer his phone. 9 calls. No response. Maya gritted her teeth. He's with her. Of course he was. The hospital room felt too bright and too small. Nurses moved quickly, their voices gentle but urgent. Maya cried, not just from the pain, but from the betrayal that was older than this moment but hurt more now than ever. You're not alone, I told her. You'll never be alone in this again. She squeezed my hand harder. Promise? I promise. Hours passed. I held her hand every second. When her son finally arrived, a tiny, crying miracle, I felt something break inside me for the first time in weeks. Not a painful break. Something like a thaw. One nurse smiled and asked, "Dad?" Before I could speak, Maya whispered, "He's family." I held that newborn boy in my arms, his wrinkled fists, his soft, confused wailing, and thought, "You deserve better than the man who made you. You deserve truth. You deserve loyalty. You deserve a father who shows up." Tyler burst into the maternity ward nearly an hour later, face panicked, shirt half-buttoned. He saw us, me holding his son, and the rage in his eyes was instant. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" he snarled. The baby startled and whimpered. Maya sat up slowly, exhaustion written into every muscle. "Where were you?" she asked. Her voice wasn't angry. It was worse, calm. Tyler sputtered excuses, but even lies sounded afraid. He reached for the baby as though he still had the right. I instinctively shifted back. Maya shook her head. "Security knows you're not allowed unsupervised access until paperwork is finalized," she said. He blinked. "What paperwork?" She nodded to the folder on the chair beside her, the one she'd brought and signed before he arrived. I stepped closer, protecting her with posture more than anything else. "You weren't here," I said, low enough for only him to hear. "You missed your son's first breath. That moment doesn't come back." His face reddened. "I'm his father." "Then act like one," I whispered. He raised his fist like he might hit me. The security officer in the doorway saw it before he lowered it. Tyler was escorted out, red-faced, humiliated. Maya's breath trembled as she watched him disappear. She wiped her eyes softly. "He pushed me to the edge? I just didn't realize I'd learned to fly." The legal papers hit them both 2 days later. Jessica sobbed when she saw the custody claims and evidence packet. She stood in our living room, hands shaking, begging for explanations I refused to offer. "You can't do this," she cried. "This isn't fair." Fair. As if betrayal came with fairness clauses. Tyler tried calling Maya nonstop, but with each call unanswered, panic grew in him like mold. He suddenly remembered that his unborn child, now born, had a future he was required to care about. Jessica and Tyler thought they had created a secret garden of passion. Turns out they built a courtroom exhibit. And while they were busy losing themselves in each other, Maya and I found everything worth saving. Late that night, after Maya had fallen asleep at the hospital with her son tucked against her chest, I stood in the hallway looking through the window at them. A nurse passed and gave me the soft smile reserved for family members. And in a way, I was one. Not by blood. Not by title. But by presence. By choice. I checked my phone. Jessica had sent 6 messages. Tyler had sent 2. I didn't open any of them. Their voices no longer defined my life. For the first time since that night in the park, my breathing felt full again. Not healed. Not redeemed. Just alive. And that was enough to keep going. Hospitals have their own kind of dawn. Lights never truly go off, but the air shifts, the world softens, and nurses begin speaking louder as if the sun itself grants permission to breathe again. Maya slept with her son curled against her, his tiny heartbeat visible through his blanket. I sat in a chair too small for any adult and watched the two of them like they were the only survivors of a shipwreck. He had her nose. That was obvious right away. The rest of him was new, a blueprint still being drafted by life. I tried to imagine him growing up, learning to crawl, laughing at cartoons, scraping his knees, asking the big questions about why people leave and why some stay. I'd make sure he always knew who stayed. My phone buzzed again. Jessica's name flashed on the screen, but I let it fade out. Her words, apologies, please, would wait. My silence was the consequence she earned. Maya woke with a soft inhale. "You're still here," she whispered. "I told you," I said. "You're not alone." Her smile was small, tired, grateful, the kind of smile that acknowledges someone choosing to stay even when they could walk away. A nurse dropped by to check vitals and reminded Maya that discharge paperwork could start in the afternoon. "Do you have someone to take you home?" she asked. Maya looked up at me. "Yes. I do." Something inside me shifted, not an explosion, but a realization settling into place like a puzzle piece finally found. Tyler showed up again the next morning, this time calmer, wearing remorse like an ill-fitting suit. "Maya," he said, voice trembling. I'm sorry. I messed up. I want to fix this. I want to be a father." Maya held her son a little closer. "You don't get to choose fatherhood only when it's convenient." He reached out as if the gesture alone could rewrite the last few weeks. "Please. Just let me hold him." "You missed your chance," Maya whispered. Tyler's eyes darted to me, desperate. "Tell her I'm trying." "You're not trying," I replied evenly. "You're reacting to consequences." Jessica lurked behind him like a shadow that wanted to disappear under the fluorescent lights. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Maybe she couldn't. Maya, I love you, Tyler insisted. I love our son. If you did, she said, voice steady but fragile around the edges, you would have shown up when he needed you most. Security arrived again, quicker this time. Tyler didn't fight them. He just looked back at his family as though wishing could undo everything. Wishing changes nothing. When we left the hospital later that day, I drove Maya home. The baby slept in the car seat behind us, his breathing soft and rhythmic. We talked in gentle fragments, pediatric appointments, feeding schedules, but not betrayal. Not yet. We carried the baby inside together. The nursery looked different now. Not just hopeful. Occupied. Maya sat in the rocking chair, eyes glossy as she watched her son sleep. Thank you, she murmured. For what? I asked. For showing up, she said. For seeing me when he didn't. I swallowed around the lump in my throat. You deserved better long before any of this happened. A tear slipped down her cheek. She didn't wipe it away. Some tears are earned. I left when she insisted she'd be okay for a few hours. Before I walked out the door, she said, don't disappear. I won't, I promised. And I didn't. The divorce process began with numbers, dates, legal terms, and proof delivered in neatly labeled folders. Tyler barely had a chance to breathe before the custody petition landed like a dagger at his doorstep. Jessica panicked when she realized everything she'd tried to hide was now neatly organized evidence. You've changed, she whispered one night while I sat at the kitchen table reviewing documents the lawyer sent. No, I answered. You just never paid attention to who I was. She cried. She touched my arm. She begged. She tried to weaponize nostalgia, the vacations, the inside jokes, the years tucked into photo albums. But memory can't save someone who killed the future. Moving out wasn't dramatic. I packed what was mine, clothes, a few books, the kettle I liked, and left. Jessica watched from the stairs, knees pulled to her chest. Please don't go, she said. You went first, I replied. The door closed softly behind me. Maya's apartment became familiar. Not as an escape, as a beginning. I'd hold the baby while she slept a little more. Sometimes she'd wake up gasping from a nightmare where Tyler took him. I'd steady her breathing with whispered reassurances that we were prepared. The law was on her side. So was I. Some nights we talked until sunrise. About what we feared. What we hoped. How betrayal rewires the heart so it beats more cautiously, slow to trust but fast to protect. One evening, she fell asleep against my shoulder on the couch, and I realized I felt peace. Not joy yet. Not excitement. But a quiet, steady warmth that anchored me. The baby woke then, fussing, and I lifted him gently. He stared at me with unfocused eyes, searching instinctively for someone who cared. I've got you, I whispered. I'm here. He relaxed in my arms. I think that was the moment I fell in love, with both of them. Tyler's visitation rights were suspended. His name no longer belonged in the nursery. His absence was the best gift he'd unintentionally given his son. Jessica moved in with a coworker. A man she swore was just a friend. The pattern repeated itself because some people don't learn, they chase the next validation until there's no one left to validate them. She sent me long emails I never answered. Regret is an echo. It fades whether you listen or not. A year passed. The baby learned to laugh. Maya learned to smile without guilt. I learned that love isn't a fragile glass you tiptoe around, it's a tree that grows back even if lightning splits it once. On a warm summer evening in the park, the same park where everything shattered, I knelt beside a toddler fascinated by dandelions. Maya, I said, heart steady for the first time in years, I want to spend the rest of my life choosing you. She covered her mouth with both hands, tears gathering in her lashes. She nodded before she could speak. Yes, she whispered. 1,000 times yes. We didn't replace the lives our exes destroyed. We built new ones from the truth they left behind. Sometimes, when I go for my night runs, I come home to porch light glowing, laughter inside, and a tiny voice squealing as he runs to hug my legs. Maya stands in the doorway, holding a future I once thought I'd lost. Jessica and Tyler taught me what betrayal feels like. Maya and her son taught me what love does after. Quietly. Steadily. Beautifully.